All right, so next topic of discussion now is cruciates. Let's talk about cruciates, anterior cruciate ligament, posterior cruciate ligament. So you can see ACL, you can see PCL. Let's discuss. Uh, by now, you must have understood that whenever I discuss any ligament with you, I talk about the basic anatomy, injury, testing, treatment. Same here. First of all, I want you to understand that I will be giving you 12, 12 important points about these two cruciates, ACL and PCL. I'll be giving you 12 very important points about ACL and PCL. The first six will be similarities, the next six will be differences. The first six will be similarity, the next six will be differences. First of all, let's talk about their similarities. The first similarity, both the cruciates provide stability in sagittal plane. Second similarity, both the cruciates are within the joint, so they are intra-articular. Third similarity, both the cruciates are within the capsule, so they are intracapsular. A very interesting point I am going to discuss right now with all of you. Despite being within the joint, despite being within the capsule, they are not completely reflected, covered, or bathed by synovium. Some part of it, some part of it is not covered by synovium. And even if this much part is not covered by synovium, so you call that condition to be extra synovial. So technically, my friend, both are intra-articular, both are intracapsular, both are extra synovial, both provide stability in sagittal plane. Four similarities. Time for the fifth similarity. Both are supplied by the same blood supply, middle geniculate artery, branch of popliteal artery. Both are supplied by same nerve, posterior articular nerve, branch of tibial nerve. So they have a common blood supply, they have a common nerve supply. The common blood supply, middle geniculate artery, branch of popliteal artery. They have a common nerve supply, posterior articular nerve, branch of tibial nerve. So I think I told you that I'll be discussing 12 points about cruciates. The first six will be similarity, the next six will be differences. So we have spoken about the six similarity. First similarity, intra-articular, intracapsular, extrasynovial, sagittal plane stability, same blood supply, middle geniculate artery, branch of popliteal artery, same nerve supply, posterior articular nerve, branch of tibial nerve. With this, we understand six similarities. Now it is the time to understand the six differences. Before I start teaching you the six differences, I want you to please focus on this image and conclude that PCL, can you see PCL? And can you see ACL? I want you to conclude, looking at this image, that PCL is slightly, PCL is 1.5 times broader as compared to ACL. PCL is 1.5 times thicker and broader as compared to ACL. Now on an MRI, you can visualize both the ligaments. As an orthopedic surgeon, I don't have anything with this. I am not even concerned. I'm not even bothered about this difference which I've just taught you. See, I've taught you a difference that PCL is 1.5 times thicker or broader than ACL. But to tell you very honestly, I have nothing to do with this. It doesn't make any difference to my life when I'm operating a knee. So, anatomically, PCL is 1.5 times thicker or broader than ACL, but technically it doesn't make any difference to my life. Similarly, on an MRI, PCL will be slightly better visualized as compared to ACL. Now, why do I say that PCL is slightly better visualized as compared to ACL? Because of a very simple reason. I can give you that reason as well. On an MRI, anything which is broad or thick will show a better signal. You must have been taught in radiology as well. So first difference is PCL is 1.5 times broader. Second difference is on an MRI, PCL is slightly better visualized. Let's talk about the third difference. The most common site for ACL tear is mid substance, mid bundle. Most common site for ACL tear is mid substance, mid bundle. Most common site for PCL tear is avulsion from the femoral attachment. Most common site for ACL tear is mid substance, mid bundle. Most common site for PCL tear is, it's not tear, it is avulsion from femoral attachment, not from tibial but from femoral attachment. This was the third difference. Now let's talk about the fourth difference. The fourth difference, I want you to just look at me and listen to me without applying any logic or any brain. Just listen to me. The fourth difference is that PCL and ACL are relatively important in different postures. I give you an example. If you have to go downhill or downstairs, what you require is ACL. But if you have to go uphill or upstairs, what you require is PCL. So this is the fourth difference. ACL is important in downhill downstair activity. PCL is important in uphill upstair activity. Fourth difference. Now let's talk about the fifth difference. So listen to me. I will explain this fifth difference. Guys, to be very honest with you, this fifth difference will explain the fourth difference as well. So listen to me. Okay, first of all, what do you want? You want to go downhill, you want to go uphill? Let's go downhill. Let's go downstairs. First of all, let's go downhill. Let's go downstairs. Everyone, look at me. Let's go downhill. Let's go downstairs. Tibia first, femur follows. Tibia first, femur follows. Tibia first, femur follows. Tibia first, femur follows again. Tibia first. Which is a bigger bone? Femur. Who's under stress? Femur. What is the stress? That my tibia should not go excessively anterior. I'll repeat it for you. First, we'll go downhill, downstairs. Then I will explain uphill, upstairs. First of all, downhill, downstairs. When we go downhill, downstairs, what happens is tibia first, femur follows. Tibia first, femur follows. Tibia first, femur follows. Tibia first. Which is the bigger bone? Femur. What is under stress? Femur. What is the stress? That my tibia should not go excessively anterior. So when tibia goes first, what does femur say? ACL. ACL is like, yes, madam, femur. Femur is like, ACL. I know. You come from posterior part of the intercondylar notch of the femur and you go to anterior part of the tibial spine of the tibia. ACL. You have to go to tibia and tell tibia that tibia cannot go excessively anterior. ACL, you have to come from posterior part of the intercondylar notch of the femur. You have to go to anterior part of the tibial spine of tibia. You have to go to tibia, tell tibia that tibia cannot go excessively anterior. So ACL goes to tibia and tells tibia, stay in limits. Meanwhile, madam, femur is coming for you. Again we take one step down. Listen to me. Again we take one step down. Tibia goes in the front. ACL tells tibia, meanwhile femur, okay. Again we take one step down. ACL tells tibia, okay. So today we have concluded one thing very clearly. That ACL is important in downhill downstair activity. Today we have concluded one thing. ACL is important in downhill downstair activity. How? The job of ACL is to prevent excess anterior translation of tibia with respect to femur, and that is why it is important for downhill downstair activity. What am I actually trying to teach you all people here is, God forbid if somebody sustains an ACL tear, go and talk to that somebody. God forbid if somebody sustains an ACL tear, you go and talk to that somebody who has sustained a recent ACL tear. That patient of recent ACL tear will tell you on your face that, doctor, I had an ACL tear 3 weeks ago. Day before yesterday, one of my friend called me home me and two of my more friends, we went to his home. He lives on third floor. They do have an elevator. While going up, he took us via elevator, via lift. While coming down, he said, "Dude, I think there is some problem. Lift is not working. We will have to take stairs." Doctor, everybody who was along with me, they immediately climbed downstairs. Takatak, 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 takatak. And doctor, only me and my knee knows how I climbed those 3 floors down. I said, "Sir, what was the problem that you were having?" Doctor, with every step down, I had a feeling. Listen to this. This is very important in English because this comes usually as a statement in an MCQ. Doctor, with every step down, I had a feeling that my knee will give way anteriorly. So the people with fresh ACL tear, they constantly complain in front of the doctor that they have a feeling of constant fear of anterior giving way of knee joint while going downhill or downstairs. So that is something which I want you to understand. So guys, if you have understood that how ACL is important in downhill downstair activity, let me now try to tell you how PCL is important in uphill upstair activity. Let me now try to tell you how PCL is important in uphill upstair activity. Downhill downstair. Tibia first, femur follows, tibia first, femur follows, tibia first, femur follows. Let's go uphill upstairs. Femur first, tibia follows, femur first, tibia follows, femur first, tibia follows, femur first, tibia follows, femur first. Which is the bigger bone? Femur. Who is under stress? Femur. What is the stress about? That I have come in the front. My tibia should not lag behind. My tibia should not sag behind. So what does femur do? Femur is like, PCL. PCL like, yes madam. Yes madam, femur, you called me. Femur is like, yes PCL, I've called you. PCL, I know that you come from anterior part of the intercondylar notch of the femur and you go to posterior part of the tibial spine of tibia. PCL, you should go to tibia and tell tibia that tibia cannot sag behind. Tibia cannot lag behind. Tibia should not go behind. So PCL comes to tibia and tells tibia, come with madam femur. Meanwhile, we take one step above, we take one step ahead, we go one step up, femur again goes in the front, PCL goes to tibia and tells tibia, come along with us. Tibia, you're not supposed to lag behind, sag behind. So technically, if I may say, listen to me carefully. So technically, if I may say, the job of PCL is to ensure that there is no excess posterior sagging of tibia with respect to femur. So technically, we have concluded till now 6 similarities and 5 differences. We are supposed to read 6 similarities and 6 differences. But we have discussed 6 similarities and 5 differences. Let me just explain them again. Similarities: sagittal plane stability, intra-articular, intracapsular, extrasynovial, middle geniculate artery, posterior articular nerve. Differences: PCL is 1.5 times thicker, broader than ACL. ACL is important in downhill downstair activity. PCL is important in uphill upstair activity. On an MRI, PCL is slightly better visualized as compared to ACL. Most common site for ACL tear is mid bundle, mid substance. For PCL, it is femoral attachment. Fifth difference is that ACL prevents excess anterior translation of tibia with respect to femur while going downhill downstairs. PCL prevents excess posterior sagging of tibia with respect to femur while going uphill upstairs. So, now we conclude the 6th difference, the last difference, technically the 12th point of this topic. My dear friends, do you remember looking at this image, everyone? Do you remember looking at this image, everyone? Can you tell me what was this mechanism of injury called? Of course, you all remember valgus mechanism. Why do I say valgus mechanism? Because trauma has happened from outside. Knee goes towards, held with knee, tibia fibula goes away, so we call it valgus mechanism. So this guy is getting hit. This is the culprit. He's the actual reason behind it. I don't know what this man is up to. Maybe a referee. See, please try to understand whatever is on your screen right now here. Of course, it's a valgus mechanism of injury, but it's a very childish, it's a very kiddish thing. I'll show you something true, real, interesting. Wow. I will show you something interesting. This is something interesting. Do you see this? This is something interesting. Now, when I show you this is something interesting, first of all, I want you to have a disclaimer that in this image, in your workbook, we are not talking about this knee, okay? We are not talking about this knee. Friends, we are talking about this knee. It has happened to me. Once I got a message, somebody took a screenshot from the workbook and sent me a message that, sir, in this I can't appreciate. I said, beta, just look at this. Okay, if you don't want to look at this, maybe you look at him. He's not understanding that what has actually happened to his life. He's not able to ensure that whether he should exhale or inhale now. Andar ka andar, bahar ka bahar. He is not able to understand anything. And you are talking about this knee? We are talking about this knee, okay? Now, before I explain what has happened in this injury to this knee, I want you to understand this guy 21. Of course, you can't see his face. I have deliberately not shown you. Anyhow, let's talk about this guy 21. Look at me. He's a dear friend of mine. Look at me, everyone. He's a dear friend of mine. And before all this happened, he came to me. He said, Tushar, today I want to do something different. I said, 21. Don't try for all this different and all. I said, just follow the routine pattern. No exceptions. Just follow the routine pattern. Just follow the routine pattern. Come from outside. Let the knee go to hell. Tibia will go out. Let's create a valgus mechanism of injury. This is anyways the most common mechanism of injury. Let's not interfere with anything. Let's do it. He said, I want to do something rare. I want to do something unique. I said, then do one thing. You come from inside and then you give rise to varus mechanism. You come from inside and then you give rise to varus mechanism. That will be rare thing. As absurd as it may sound that you are going to hit 21, you are going to hit somebody from inside of the knee. Andar se jayega tu, but it's okay. You want to do something rare, please go ahead. He said, no, Tushar. I want to do something big. I said, bloody hell. What is that one big thing that you want to do? He said, I will come from the front. I said, 21, what are you saying? He said, yes, I will come from the front. Friends, this guy in the green tee, in the green t-shirt, he was standing normally as I am standing in front of you right now. So he was standing normally as I'm standing in front of you right now. His knee was in extension, but this 21 guy came from the front and directly banged into his knee. When this guy banged into his knee went into a kind of hyperextension. Do you understand? Do you understand, everyone? When this guy 21 banged him in from the front, when this 21 guy banged this other guy straight from the front, direct from the front, then this knee went from extension to, come on, speak up, hyperextension. You understand? This knee went from extension to, come on, speak up, everyone, hyperextension. Now, I want you to please be a little alert, aware, and understand what I'm trying to teach you. When I say hyperextension injury, and when I say that trauma has happened from the front of the knee, I have to ask you a question: where is the knee going? Is it going towards the front or is it going towards the back? My simple question. Where is the knee going? Is it going in the front or is it going in the back? Of course, is it going in the front or is it going in the back? Of course, it is going behind. But my another question is, are we even concerned about knee? To hell with knee. We're not concerned about knee. To hell with knee. It can go anywhere as much as it wants. We are concerned about the part distal to knee. Now, when we are concerned about the part distal to knee, what is that part distal to knee? That is the leg, that is the tibia, that is the fibula. The part which is distal to knee, I want you to understand, it is the leg, it is the tibia, it is the fibula. Tell me a simple answer. Where is the tibia, the fibula, the leg going? Is it going in front or is it going behind? Of course, it is going in front. Now, tibia is going in front. Friends, you all know that by now. When tibia goes in front, what does femur say? Who comes under stress? Femur. Which is the elder bone? Femur. Which is the stronger bone? Femur. So who comes under stress? Femur. What does femur say? ACL. ACL is like, yes, madam, femur. ACL. We have been attacked from the front. ACL, we have been attacked from the front. This 21 guy has gone crazy. Boom, hyperextension injury. ACL, tibia is going excessively anterior. ACL, I know that you come from posterior part of the intercondyle nerve of the femur and you go to the anterior part of the tibial spine of the tibia. ACL, you have to go to tibia and tell tibia the tibia, you cannot go excessively anterior. ACL, are you listening? ACL, why are you not replying? ACL, it's your job. We have been attacked from the front. To hell with knee. Tibia is going excessively anterior. ACL, femur is like ACL. You have to go to tibia and tell tibia that tibia can't do that. ACL, why are you not replying? ACL said, madam. Yes, ACL. ACL said, madam. Yes, ACL. ACL, why are you crying, madam? What else I can do, madam? Madam, even before you asked me to stop tibia, madam, I tried to stop tibia, but tibia went ahead with such a force and such a magnitude, madam, that it tore me in the middle of my substance, madam, in the middle of my bundle, madam. It's okay, ACL. If tibia has gone excessively anterior, tearing you in the middle of your substance, then it's okay, ACL, because that is also an MCQ, ACL, that your most common site of tear is mid-substance or mid-bundle. So we have concluded one thing today, that most common mechanism for ACL tear is most common mechanism for ACL tear is hyperextension injury. Most common mechanism for PCL tear is hyperflexion injury. Now, since it is a hyperextension injury, it has resulted into ACL tear. There can be a hyperflexion injury which can result into a PCL tear, giving rise to the 12th point between ACL and PCL tear, which we have concluded till now. I hope it makes some sense to you. Is that clear to all of you? Tell me, everyone, yes or no. So friends, 6 similarities and 6 differences. I hope these 12 points about cruciates are clear to all of you. Because if they are clear to you, now we can start discussion of the clinical presentation, then the testing, and then the treatment of cruciate. So now I will be presenting in front of you a typical clinical presentation of cruciate injury. Alright, so next patient please, for cruciate ligament injuries. Till now you must have heard from me, till now you must have heard from me so many times that I've said OPD, next patient please, OPD, next patient please. At this moment, it's not an OPD in the description of the cruciate ligament injury. So I tell you a typical clinical case and I want you to listen to me very carefully. Evening around 5:30, I get a call that there's a patient in the casualty, if you can please come. So I go to the casualty. Bed number 1. Listen to me carefully, huh? Bed number 1, I see a young male in his mid-20s, late 20s, lying on a stretcher. The moment I see him, I see my staff nurse also holding a pair of scissors in her hand, and she is trying to slit the jeans of the patient of the right lower limb from ankle and above. She's just about to start. So I look at her and I'm like, she's like, I said, what are you doing? Tell me. She said, sir, look at the knee. I look at the knee, and the moment I look at the knee of the patient, I'm like, oops. It is swollen. It is swollen. It is hugely swollen like a balloon. It is swollen, and not only swollen, it is hugely swollen like a balloon. It is filled with blood. And the moment I look at it, I'm like, shit, this is something big. I'm like, okay. Go on. Why? If your knee is swollen and if you are wearing a very tight skinny cloth or a tight skinny jeans, then there is quite a possibility of that swelling not being able to expand because of the tight skinny jeans, and that can create pressure inside, creating a kind of a compartment syndrome kind of a picture, which we don't want. I said, yeah, go ahead. Slit the jeans. And then I go to the head end of the patient. Look at me, everyone. Then I go to the head end of the patient and I'm like, so, all good? He said, no, doctor. I said, what happened? He said, doctor, I live in the building over there. Okay. Doctor, I came out of my building. Okay. I was going to a nearby market to buy some fruits and vegetables. Okay. Doctor, along the main wall of my building, there's a footpath. Listen to me, everyone. He said, along the main wall of the building, there is a footpath. Doctor, I was walking on that footpath. Okay. Doctor, suddenly from the right hand side, I could hear a loud noise, and just by human nature, the moment I heard that loud noise from my right hand side, I turned myself onto the right hand side. Okay. And doctor, meanwhile, I turned myself onto the right hand side. Doctor, there was a guy, good, healthy built guy, on his motorbike. Which motorbike? Royal Enfield Bullet. Duk, 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 duk. Doctor, he came and he directly, the moment I turned myself towards the right side, he came and he directly hit me in the front of my tapak knee. Oh my God. A heavy built guy on a heavy built bike, both of them, they came immediately and banged this patient right from the front. Point to be noted, everyone, attack from the front. Bike is hitting from the front, direct trauma from the front, hyperextension injury. Point to be noted, everyone. I said, sir, then what? He said, doctor, nothing. When that bike came from the front, along with that guy, duk, 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 tapak, doctor, we all three fell down. Doctor, we all three fell down. Me, that guy, and the bike. I said, then? He said, doctor, nothing. We all three fell down, and doctor, it was around 3:30 in the afternoon, but for me it was already dark, it was already night, because I could see stars floating in front of my eyes in the sky. Then he said, doctor, nothing. Within a few seconds, the stars faded away, and I realized, who am I, where am I, and what has happened to me. And I was lying on the ground, and so was that man on the bike. Then he said, doctor, for a minute I felt as if I have lost my limb below the knee. For a minute I felt as if I have lost the limb below my knee. I said, sir, but nothing has happened. You have not lost any limb below the knee, because, sir, I can see that. Sir, I can see that you have an intact limb below the knee. I said, sir, I can see that you have an intact limb below the knee. I can see that. But don't worry, sir. If you felt transiently that you have lost the limb below the knee, that's an absolutely okay feeling. I'll tell you why that's an okay feeling, because ACL and PCL have got proprioceptive fibers. ACL and PCL have got proprioceptive fibers. They have got certain fibers in them which are responsible for joint position sense. And sir, if you feel that your joint position is gone, see, you have got an ACL tear, of course, your joint position sense is gone for a transient period of time, of course, your proprioception is gone, of course, that's why you are not able to feel the joint below the, you will not able to feel the limb below the joint. But that's okay. The second feeling is also normal. I said, then? He said, nothing, doctor. The guy got up, that bike driver got up. Then he picked up his bike, put it on stand. Priorities, buddy, priorities. In life, we follow priorities. A bullet rider will first pick up the bullet, of course. There are very limited Royal Enfields in the country. People are in bulk, we have crossed China as well in population. So that guy picked up his bike, put it on stand. I said, then? He said, doctor, then that guy came towards me. First of all, he apologized. He said, it is my mistake. Don't worry, sir. Please take my hand. Please take my support. Get up. I will take you to the hospital. I'll get your treatment done. Don't worry, sir. It's my mistake. Please do that. Doctor, I believed in him, and I took his hand. I took his support, and I kept my hand under in his hand. Then he said, doctor, then I got up. Then he said he removed his hand because he was supposed to, take the bike so that I can sit on the bike and he can take me to the hospital. But doctor, the moment he removed his hand, I fell down again. Doctor, but the moment he removed his hand, I fell down again. Doctor, for a minute, I was not able to believe myself that how the hell is this possible? That my knee is not at all able to bear the body weight. Doctor, for a minute, I was not able to believe that how the hell my knee was not able to bear my own body weight. So basically what one needs to understand is that till now we have got three very important clues. Number one, His knee was swollen like a balloon. That's why he was attacked from the front hyperextension injury. Number three, he got his support, he got his hand, but he could not stand on his own, and again he fell down. So his knee was not able to take his own body weight. And to be honest, I've given you the fourth clue as well, that for a moment, for a transient period of time, he felt as if he has lost the limb below the knee. So this is again the fourth problem. Okay. Now, compiling all of it, I understood almost everything in my head. I said, "Sir, then what?" He said, "Nothing, doctor." Then two, three people who were passing by that area on the road, they looked at me and that bike guy, and they came towards us and they started beating that guy, just like typical Indian story. And I told those people, I said, "Guys, you can have the fun of your life later on. First of all, you should focus on me because I'm lying on the road. I've been hit here, and if you can please come and help me." Two people from there came to me and they said, "Sir, don't worry. Please take our hand. Please take our support. Get up. We'll take you to the hospital and we'll get, all money from him as well." And then I told these people, I said, "No, I'm not going to take anybody's support and try to get up." Why? Because there's a reason why. Because even if I do that, he said, "Even if I do that, that will be a very big problem." He said, "Even if I do that, that will be a very big problem because I will definitely take your people's support and then I'll get up. But once you will take your support back, this time I have a fear that I might not just fall, I might just wither away." So I told those guys, I said, "Nothing doing. You manage on your own. Please bring another two, three people. Two people should lift me from my feet. Two people should lift me from my buttocks. One or two should lift me from my shoulders. And then please put me in an auto or whatever you want to do and take me to the hospital." So doctor, they took me to your hospital on an auto. And now in your hospital, I asked for a stretcher and therefore now I'm lying in front of you on your stretcher. I said, "Sir, you know what? I have to say one thing." He said, "What, doctor?" I said, "Amazing. Superb." He said, "Doctor, I have given you a detailed history. That's why you're saying amazing now. Because I know that NEET, next, USMLE concept, long stem clinical question. That's why you're saying superb now." I said, "No, I'm not saying superb or amazing because of some long stem clinical question and all." I said, "Sir, what kind of injury have you sustained?" Amazing. Maza aa gaya. I said, "Sir, are you a stupid person or what? Are you supposed to walk on a footpath? Footpaths are not meant for pedestrians. Footpaths are meant for bike riders. Because when people are traveling on their bike, they're riding a bike, they see a traffic jam. So what they see a footpath over there, and then like, and they pass on from there." I said, "Footpath is basically meant for all these things." And I said, "Sir, to be very honest, you're very lucky that you just got hit by a bullet. Otherwise, even land cruisers these days, even they are looking for people sleeping and walking on footpath. And the best part is you are never able to track their drivers in future. Driverless land cruisers." I said, "Sir, but whatever has happened has happened. I have heard about four important points as far as you are concerned: attack from the front, hyperextension injury, knee swollen like a balloon, hemarthrosis. Knee is swollen like a balloon, hemarthrosis, attack from the front, hyperextension injury. You were not able to feel your limb below the knee for transient period of time, loss of joint position sense, and your knee is not able to bear your body weight anyhow." I said, "Sir, looking at all of it, and plus only one ligament injury is pending, it feels as if you are most likely a cruciate ligament tear. But sir, don't worry, we will do the confirmation once we perform some clinical test in you. We will do the confirmation once we perform some clinical test in you. The moment we will perform the clinical test, the moment we perform the clinical test, we'll be able to confirm the whole clinical scenario in you. Come on, let's perform the clinical test and confirm the whole thing. Okay, guys. The first test that I want all of you to understand here is what is called as anterior drawers test. The first test in your workbook that I want you to understand is what is called as anterior drawer test. I have a request for all of you. that please do not try to mug up the steps of the test as I have seen you, most of you, doing all the time. Please do not do that. Just listen to the steps, absorb them. So, is the patient okay? First of all, what is the name of the test? Anterior drawer pull test. Okay, anyhow, let's start. The patient is made to lie down supine on the examination couch. Yes. Knee is flexed by 90 degree. Yes. So first of all, let me repeat it for you. The patient is lying down supine on the examination couch. Yes, I repeat. The patient is made to lie down supine on the examination couch. Yes. Knee is flexed by 90 degree. Yes. Knee is flexed by 90 degree. Now, examiner is sitting on the dorsum of the foot. Yes. Examiner is sitting on the dorsum of the foot. Yes. Examiner is holding the proximal tibia in such a way. I repeat, examiner is holding the proximal tibia in such a way that two thumbs are into the tibial tuberosity while fingers are embracing the posterior part of the proximal leg. Yes. Examiner is sitting on the dorsum of the foot. I repeat, examiner is sitting on the dorsum of the foot in such a way that two thumbs are into the tibial tuberosity while fingers are embracing the posterior part of the proximal leg. So fingers are embracing the posterior part of the proximal leg. I'm sure you can see. Now the examiner is going to do something which is actually mentioned here in the name of the test, anterior आगे drawer धक्का test. The examiner is going to exert an anterior pull. I hope you all understand push and pull. So examiner is going to exert a pull. Okay, I'll show it to you. The examiner is going to exert a pull on this tibia towards himself. And believe me, if the tibia gets pulled anteriorly, with respect to this femur, if tibia gets pulled excessively anteriorly, we are going to say anterior drawer test for ACL tear positive, because the job of ACL was to prevent this excess anterior translation of tibia with respect to femur. To prevent this, it was the job of ACL. Since it is happening, therefore ACL is not doing its job, therefore it is torn. I hope you people understood anterior drawer test for ACL tear positive. Listen to me again. Rather than now exerting a pull anteriorly, let's exert a push posteriorly. So rather than pull, let's exert push. Same, everything same. Patient supine, knee 90 degree, flex, examiner sitting on the dorsum of the foot, holding the proximal tibia in such a way that two thumbs are under the tibial tuberosity while fingers are bracing the posterior part of the proximal leg. Now rather than pull, let's exert push. I repeat, rather than pull, let's exert push. And the moment he will exert a push, I repeat, the moment he will exert a push, there will be posterior translation of tibia with respect to femur, and that is when you say posterior drawer test for PCL tear positive. That is when you say, I repeat, posterior drawers test for PCL tear positive. So guys, do you understand this anterior drawer and posterior drawer test for ACL and PCL? Everyone tell me yes or no. Yes. Now friends, if you have understood this, now I want to talk to you about a very interesting and important concept. So please pay attention, everyone. Listen to me carefully. Did I teach you that anterior cruciate ligament injury is the most common cause of hemarthrosis of knee? Yeah, of course. Hemarthrosis means a lot of accumulation of blood inside the knee leading to a significant swelling. Hemarthrosis means a collection of a significant amount of blood inside the knee leading to a significant swelling in the knee. That is what hemarthrosis is all about. So ACL tear can certainly lead to hemarthrosis of the knee, yes or no? Yes. Now I have another question for all of you. Imagine that if this knee is swollen like a balloon. Imagine if this knee after acute ACL tear has resulted into a significant hemarthrosis. I have a very simple question for all of you, that in this significantly swollen knee, will you as a patient be comfortable in flexing your knee by 90 degree? Tell me yes or no. Answer is of course no. You will not be comfortable in flexing your knee by 90 degree. You will not be comfortable in flexing your knee by 90 degree for sure. So what does that mean? That means that anterior and posterior drawer test might be a good test for ACL and PCL tear, but they are certainly not good test for acute tear. These tests might be amazing tests for for ACL and PCL tear, but they are not good whenever you are dealing with an acute injury, because every acute injury is more or less associated with hemarthrosis. That means a painful swollen ballooned knee, and in that condition flexing knee by 90 degree doesn't make any sense to me. So they are not good for acute injury. So for acute injury in the market we have something that is what is called as Latchman's test. So I repeat, for acute injury, we have something which is what is called as, come on, speak up everyone, Latchman test. Now, before I explain Latchman test, I want all of you to understand one thing, that guys, to perform Latchman test, the first thing which is very much required is you need to have big broad hands. To perform Latchman test, the first thing which is very important is you people need to have big broad hands. So now let me show you Latchman test. So patient is lying down supine. Okay. Now patient is lying down supine. Now with your left hand, let's hold the distal femur. With your left hand, let's hold the distal thigh, I must say, not the femur. With your left hand, let's hold the distal thigh. With your right hand, let's hold the proximal leg. With your left hand, listen to me. Left hand, let's hold the distal thigh. With your right hand, let's hold the proximal leg. Distal thigh, proximal leg, okay? Left hand, distal thigh, right hand, proximal leg. Flex the knee by 30 degree. Can you see that? Flex the knee by, just take a look. Flex the knee by 30 degree. So left hand is holding the distal thigh. Right hand is holding the proximal leg. Let's flex the knee by 30 degree. Only 30 degree. Now we will discuss a very important point here. Why 30 degree knee flexion? We'll now try to understand why 30 degree. The most comfortable position of knee joint, okay? The most comfortable position of knee joint is 30 degree flexion. Are you listening to me? The most comfortable position of knee joint is 30 degree flexion. Please try to remember this once for all. The most comfortable position of knee joint is 30 degree flexion. Okay. Now we'll try to understand why. The capsular volume is maximum in this position. Like I give an example, for hip joint, we will be talking about the same when we talk about the chapter of infections of hip. So in hip joint, the most comfortable position is flexion, abduction and external rotation. In hip joint, the most comfortable position is flexion, abduction, external rotation. Why? Because capsular volume is maximum in this position. Similarly, in knee joint, I want you to understand that 30 degree knee flexion is the most important position. Why? Because in 30 degree knee flexion, the capsular volume is maximum. Because in knee joint, 30 degree flexion, in knee, 30 degree flexion. I repeat, in 30 degree flexion, knee flexion, 30 degree knee flexion is the most comfortable position of knee joint because capsular volume is maximum in this position, because capsular volume is maximum in this position. Since capsular volume is maximum in this position, therefore it is the most comfortable position of the knee joint. Please try to understand always. 30 degree knee flexion is the most comfortable position for knee joint, and that is why I want you to understand that capsular volume is maximum in this position, therefore it is the most comfortable position. And if this test is performed in the most comfortable position, that is why Latchman test is considered to be the test of choice for acute ACL and PCL tear. You understand my point of view now? So, since this is performed with knee 90-degree flexion, it is a good test for ACL PCL tear, but not a good test for acute tear. Since this is performed in 30-degree flexion, which is the most comfortable position of the knee joint. So, since this is performed in 30-degree flexion, which is the most comfortable position of knee joint where capsular volume is maximum, so therefore, this is the test of choice. Therefore, it is a test of choice for acute tears. Come on, let's try to understand. With left hand, you hold the distal thigh. With right hand, you hold the proximal leg. You flex the knee by 30 degree. Now, once you flex the knee by 30 degree, all you need to do is you need to exert a pull. The funda is same. The fundamental is same. There is no change in the gross fundamental, that will remain the same what we did in Drawber test. So 30-degree flexion at knee, you pull tibia towards yourself. You're holding femur with your left hand, you're stabilizing femur with your left hand, and you pull tibia in front of you anteriorly with respect to distal femur. This is called as Latchman test for ACL tear positive. You push it back. And if it goes posteriorly, it is called not the posterior Latchman, it is called reverse Latchman. Drawer is anterior posterior, Latchman is Latchman and reverse Latchman. So if you push it back and if tibia sags behind, and if tibia sags behind, if tibia sags behind, then that is what is called as reverse Latchman test for PCL tear positive. So my dear friends, I have told you this before. I am reiterating my statement once again. Please ensure that whenever you are talking about the knee ligament injuries and their tests, please remember just one basic fundamental here. Please remember one basic thing here, that in any ligament injury testing, just follow the steps of the test. Okay, just follow the steps of the test. Prone position, knee 90-degree flexion, aptly grinding test. Thumb inside, fingers are outside. Thumb inside, fingers are outside. McMurray's test. Inside, outside, valgus stress test. Outside, inside, varus stress test. Knee 90-degree flexion, you sit on the dorsum of foot, anterior drawer, posterior drawer, Latchman, reverse Latchman. Do you understand this? Do you people understand this? Yes or no? Yes. Now, my dear friends, whatever test comes out to be positive, listen to me carefully. Whatever test comes out to be positive, what is the investigation of choice? I've told you this umpteen number of times. In orthopedics, any condition, investigation of choice is MRI. So any of the clinical tests comes out to be positive, what is the investigation of choice? MRI. But what is the gold standard investigation, most liable investigation? Come on, speak up everyone. Arthroscopy. What is the gold standard, most liable investigation? Come on, speak up everyone. Arthroscopy. What is the treatment of choice? Come on, speak up everyone. Arthroscopic ACL PCL reconstruction. We will not talk about it. Last element of cruciates, last couple of elements of cruciates, we will not talk about it. The treatment of choice, listen to me everyone. Arthroscopic ACL PCL reconstruction. Listen to this treatment. Meniscal tears are either removed or repaired. Collateral tears are left as such. Cruciate tears are not left as such. They are not repaired, they are irreparable. They are removed because after removal, they have to be reconstructed. So, cruciate tears have to be reconstructed. To reconstruct cruciates, you need to have donors. To reconstruct cruciates, you need to have donors. When I was a student, just like you, in those days, the donor was patellar tendon. The donor was patellar tendon. Quadriceps tendon, somewhere here, they used to take one part of the tendon, they used to put it in place of ACL. Sooner or later, they realized, oops, it's a mistake. I said, what? How is that a mistake? They said, if we take a part of this patellar tendon, that will lead to early quadriceps weakness, insufficiency in old age. So you'll be 40, your knees will be 50. On that day, we got to know that ACL comes at the cost of early arthritis, and we said, No, we don't want to take patellar tendon or quadriceps tendon. We will take one tendon which is not that important in old age, that is hamstrings. And in hamstrings, we finalized two donors, semitendinosus and gracilis. In fact, in the short form, they are called as STG graft. In fact, when two arthroscopy surgeon they talk to each other, they talk to each other in the same lingo that, hey dude, what are you doing tomorrow? Dude ACL, dude what graft, dude same STG graft. So is this clear to us, including the treatment? Everyone, yes or no? I hope yes. Now we will come one step close towards the end of the cruciates by discussing one more clinical vignette associated with a story, and that too an interesting one. Alright, and now it is the time for that interesting story. So I was in first year post graduation. It was honestly towards the end of my first year, and I hope you remember I told you about that professor of mine, teacher of mine in arthroscopy. So it was his OPD day basically, and sir had gone for some administrative meeting, and I was taking care of the OPD. OPD was done. We used to have hardly 8-10 patients, not more than that. So I was in the OPD, and the guy who used to manage our patients, somebody who used to be there at the reception, he came to me and he said, sir, there's a doctor, madam, and she has come to meet sir. I said, which doctor, madam? She said, sir, some intern doctor is there. Okay, call her in. So intern walks in, and when that intern walks in, I'm like, yes, tell me. So she walks in with a kind of a limping gait, wearing a knee brace. I don't know whether how many of you know this or not, but there's something called knee mobilizer, knee brace. So she was wearing a knee brace and she walks in. I'm like, please have a seat, tell me. She said, sir, I'm an intern right now. I was in my hometown last week and there was some family function. I was driving an Activa. I fell down. I hurt my knee. Over there, my X-ray and MRI were done, and I was told that I have an anterior cruciate ligament tear, and I have been told that it is a partial tear. And the doctor in my hometown, the orthopedic doctor, he said that surgery is optional. So, sir, I have come to sir basically with my MRI so that I can know this opinion that, sir, whether I should get the surgery done or not. As of now, I have a partial ACL tear. So can I meet sir? I said, well, he's not here. He is gone for some administrative meeting. Okay, then I will come tomorrow. I said, no. Why tomorrow? I'm here, don't worry. I'll take a look at the MRI. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. But actually, that's okay. Even for sir, most of the things I manage. Not a problem. Come on. Have a seat. Show me your MRI. What would you like to have? Normal tea or green tea? Green tea, huh? Okay. 2 green tea. Green tea used to, it was a very new thing in fashion in those days. It had just started coming in. So I looked at the MRI. Honest confession, at that point of time, I did not know how to see an MRI. All I knew was that you read the name so that you get to know which is the anterior, posterior, top and bottom side. So I put up the MRI in the view box. Reading name was very important, of course, because I wanted to know her name so that I can take the conversation forward. Because no malintentions. S. Das says. S. Das Manual of Surgery. I'm sure you all have seen, those who are in final year must be aware of S. Das Manual of Surgery. So that practical manual of surgery, first chapter itself says that knowing the name of the patient is very important because it is important for developing an interpersonal relationship. So I was just, keen in the relationship. That's all. I mean, doctor-patient relationship. So, so I looked at the MRI and I was trying to figure it out that this MRI of which part of the body. Oh yeah, I know it is knee. And I was just trying to figure out a few things. Then I looked at the other film. Sometimes I was looking at the film, sometimes I was looking at her. And meanwhile, my senior, that orthopedic teacher of mine, arthroscopy unit head, he came inside. And the moment he came inside, of course, he himself was an orthopedic surgeon, and he knew how we orthopedics people have to go through certain emotional trauma. Because of course things have changed today, but normally girls don't take up orthopedics. I mean, things have changed today. In that time there was a strict male dominated branch. So the moment he came inside, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I disturbed you guys." I said, "No, no, no, sir, nothing like that, nothing like that. Please come, please come." "No, no, that's okay. That's okay. No, 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 sir, please come, please come." So he came inside, he looked at me, looking at the MRI. He, of course, was totally aware of my capabilities. And then he said, "Tushar, please continue." I said, "No, no, sir, it's for you, sir. Please, sir, please." He said, "No, no, 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 continue." "Okay, sir." Another 30 seconds, complete silence. And then my senior, my teacher said, "Tushar, so what do you think?" Now, I don't have any freaking clue what I'm into, what I'm dealing with. But yeah, I remember one thing that this girl said in her hometown. MRI was done where orthopedic surgeon of the hometown said partial ACL tear. I said, "Sir, I think it is a partial ACL tear." He said, "Wow." He said, "Tushar, what is partial ACL tear?" I said, "Sir, in which ACL is not completely torn." He said, "Then in complete tear, it must be completely torn." "Yes, sir." He said, "Get aside." "Okay, sir." He came at the spot in front of the view box. He looked at the MRI. He looked at everything. And then he said to that female, to that intern doctor, he said, "Ma'am, if you don't mind, can you please sit on this examination couch? I need to do some examination. And you, Tushar, get a female nurse, because for female examination, you need to have a female." So I went outside, called the female nurse. Now, I want all of you to be very attentive. So there's an examination couch. That intern doctor is sitting on the couch. So body, thigh, knee, leg, ankle, foot. So if you are sitting on an examination couch, I'm asking you all a question. If you all are sitting on an examination couch, what is the position of your knee? 90-degree flexion. If you are sitting on an examination couch, what is the position of your knee? 90-degree flexion. So her knee was in 90-degree flexion. My boss took a chair, he took a stool, sat in front of her. He kept his left hand on the distal leg. He kept his right hand behind the proximal tibia, and he tried to pull the tibia towards himself. He tried to pull the tibia towards himself, and he was able to do so. And he was able to do so. He looked at me and he said, "Tushar, what do you think is this?" I said, "Sir, anterior translation of tibia with knee 90-degree flexion positive." I said, "Sir, with knee in 90-degree flexion, anterior translation of tibia positive." He said, "Ma'am, if you don't mind, can you please lie down now?" Now the girl is lying down supine. So technically, body, thigh, body, hip, thigh, knee, leg, ankle, foot. So technically, her knee is in what right now? Extension. Technically, her knee is in what right now? Complete extension. Initially, it was in 90-degree flexion where anterior translation was positive. Her knee is in complete extension right now. My boss kept his left hand on her distal thigh, kept his right hand behind the proximal leg, and tried to pull the tibia towards himself. He was not able to do so. He looked at me and he said, "Tushar, what do you think?" I said, "Sir, with knee in complete extension, anterior translation of tibia negative. With knee in 90-degree flexion, anterior translation of tibia positive." He said, "Tushar, what do you think you can calculate from this?" I was like, in my head, I was thinking, maybe, "Sir, you have not done it appropriately. I mean, how the hell is this possible that in this position you're able to pull tibia, but in this position you're not able to pull tibia?" I said, "Sir, I don't know." He said, "Tushar, come here." Now, I don't know whether you know this or not, but there are certain models of certain joints which are kept in the OPD, knee, hip, spine, and all. So he took out one of the knee model. He opened that model, and in between the femur and tibia, he showed me. He said, "Tushar, what are these two ligaments?" I said, "Sir, one is anterior cruciate, one is posterior cruciate." He said, "Tushar, from today, remember one thing, buddy. I want all of you to be very attentive right now." He said, "Tushar, from today, remember one thing, buddy. that anterior cruciate ligament is not a single simple ligament, it is a ligament that further contains two bundles. He said anterior cruciate ligament is not a single simple ligament, it is a ligament that further contains two bundles. Now, when I say two bundles, what does that mean? When I say two bundles, what does that mean? Anteromedial bundle and look at this posterolateral bundle. He said, when I say two bundles of ACL, what does that mean? That we have, come on, take a look, everyone. Anteromedial bundle. Can you all see that? Anteromedial bundle. The second one, take a look. Posterolateral bundle. So this is what he had shown to me at that point of time. He said, Tushar, the job of ACL is to prevent excess anterior translation of tibia with respect to femur. I totally agree. You understand, everyone? The job of ACL is to prevent excess anterior translation of tibia with respect to femur. I agree. He said, but this job is performed by two different bundles in two different positions. He said, this job is performed by two different bundles in two different positions. And then he categorically mentioned that when your knee is in 90-degree flexion, this job of ACL is performed by AM bundle. So that means when your knee is in 90-degree flexion, which is the chief bundle, tight bundle, taut bundle, working bundle, major bundle, AM, which is the relaxed bundle, PL. So when knee is in 90-degree flexion, the job of ACL is not performed by the entire ACL, but it is performed by AM bundle. When your knee is in complete extension, the job of ACL is not performed by the entire ACL, it is performed by PL bundle. So what does that mean? That if your knee is in 90-degree flexion, the chief bundle is AM. If your knee is in complete extension, the chief bundle is PL. So with the knee 90-degree flexion, the chief bundle is AM. With your knee in complete extension, the chief bundle is PL. I hope I make some sense to you. So in this position, AM. In this position, PL. One more thing. Coming back to that female doctor intern. When her knee was in 90-degree flexion, the chief bundle was anteromedial bundle. Think about it. When her knee was in 90-degree flexion, at that point of time, which bundle was supposed to perform the job of the whole ACL? AM bundle. In this position, when my senior checked, it was positive. That means which is not working? ACL. Precisely which bundle is not working? Whose job was to prevent this? AM. So if in this position, you are able to translate tibia anteriorly, AM bundle is not working. You take it into complete extension. In this position, whose job is to prevent this? PL. Was this happening? No. So who was doing its job? PL bundle. So in this female doctor, this AM bundle had a tear, but the PL bundle was intact. So was she having an ACL tear? Yes. Was that a double bundle tear? No. Was that a single bundle tear? Yes. Was that a partial ACL tear? Yes. Was that an incomplete ACL tear? Yes. That was a single bundle tear. My senior gave her an option that if you want to pursue a sedentary lifestyle throughout, no need for surgery. But if you are active in any, if you're active in sports or dancing or anything, then you should get it operated. Living on a single bundle is not making any sense right now. She opted for surgery. 7 days later, she got operated in our hospital, in our department, in our unit, and I was the assistant in the surgery. And believe me when I tell you, because it is a very interesting and important point, during that surgery, only one tendon was taken. What? Did I teach you that when you are doing reconstruction, you have to take hamstrings? Yeah. Did I teach you have to take STG graft? Yeah. In that girl's surgery, only semitendinosus was taken and AM bundle was made. And bloody hell, on that day, on that moment, in that OT, I came to know about this for the first time, that why do we take two tendons? Because we have to recreate, we have to reconstruct two bundles. We have to reconstruct, come on, speak up, two bundle. Since we have to reconstruct two bundle, therefore we take two tendons, and now you understand the bundles of ACL very well. I hope this is clear. By the way, this photograph which you are looking at right now, it has been taken with knee in 90-degree flexion, and that is why these two bundles are crossing each other. If you make it straight, then these two bundles, they will come parallel to each other. So we have come to the conclusion today. We have come to certain conclusion today that if your knee is in 90-degree flexion, the two bundles will cross each other. AM will be tight, PL will be relaxed. But if your knee is in complete extension, then PL bundle will be tight, AM will be relaxed, and these two bundles will come parallel to each other. I hope this is clear to all of you. Friends, I hope this is clear to all of you. And believe me, with this, we finish the last set of ligament, that is the cruciates, including the anatomy, the injury, the testing, the treatment, the 6 similarity, the 6 differences, the injury pattern, the clinical testing, and the treatment, and even the bundles. And remember 3 clinical scenarios I have given. Somebody who fell down on his own, got up on his own, came to me on his own, meniscal tear. Somebody who could have slipped and fallen down but didn't, but twisted the foot, knee on the wet floor, and now is not able to bear weight, collateral tear. Somebody who has 4 one-liner MCQs, attack from the front, hyperextension, knee swollen like a balloon, hemarthrosis. Loss of joint position sense for some period of time, and knee is not able to take body weight anymore, cruciate tear. And then of course I have told you that as far as all these clinical tests are concerned, you're not supposed to remember the individual steps. You're supposed to absorb the gist of the test, or the image of the test, or the video of the test, and when that photograph or video strikes you in your exam, immediately you'll be able to click which test and which ligament injury. Well, with this we finish the last set of ligaments. Now in this section of knee, 2 more videos are pending. One is just a couple of MCQs on practice, that's all. And of course, as I said, one is for osteoarthritis. So see you in the next video.